Joining us right now, John Fund from National Review. You made a little news yesterday. My eyes got a little misty there. It was like you were channeling Andrew Breitbart, John Fund, as you presented James O'Keefe's latest video. He's hoping to do to the Obamacare navigators what he did to Acorn so many years ago. Here's cut 22 real fast, Mike McKay. Here's a quick snippet of it. James O'Keefe undercover talking to these Obamacare navigators in Texas.
It said something about if you smoke or something like that. But I really don't smoke. I may
lie because your premiums will be higher.
Okay.
Don't tell him that. Yeah. Don't tell him about that. Yeah.
One navigator even told us that she lies all the time.
But don't tell him. I always allow mine.
Okay.
John Fund, it sounds like another nail in the Obamacare coffin here. Tax dollars going to these navigators to basically encourage people to lie when getting their free Obamacare. First of all, who is this group that's doing this and getting this taxpayer money?
Well, it's one of hundreds of community organizing groups around the country that is getting $67 million to guide people through the enrollment process, which, of course, they can't really do because the website isn't working. But people should be very worried about this. The National Urban League was the group that was hit in this sting, but there are going to be other videos and there'll be other groups, and I think people need to be concerned for privacy reasons. Michael Astrew, the former Commissioner of Social Security until earlier this year, says this could be the greatest threat to the privacy of Americans ever. Your personal information is being processed by people who have not passed a criminal background check into a computer system wide open to identity thieves, which will then be available to groups trying to win elections for Democrats. Because what O'Keefe really breaks as news is that Enroll America and Breakthrough Texas, which are groups trying to promote Obamacare, are actually political front groups for Democratic candidates. And they're all cross-pollinating. They're sharing data. They're the same people. They move from one job to another inside these groups. In other words, what Obama set up with the navigators was a political slush fund.
And John Fund, isn't it true that in his questioning of Kathleen Sebelius last week, Senator John Cornyn, also of Texas, got her to admit that, for all she knows, these could be convicted felons who are working in these community organizing groups getting all that personal information?
Well, we know that Acorn, which went bankrupt in 2010, is trying to reform under new mismanagement and other groups. And the founder of Acorn, Wade Rathke, has gotten contracts to run navigator programs in Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas. Acorn is back in the henhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, my. So what I don't know where to start. What you're saying here...
Well, how about this, Brian? You know, most government programs, fraud creeps in here or there. In the case of Obamacare, fraud is being invited over for a keg party.
Well, no, the thing that is troubling to me is you're saying that the people who are doing this are also political operatives. And so they get all this information about people who are signing up for Obamacare, and that could be easily turned into political fundraising letters.
Well, these navigators are being asked to register people to vote. Now, who do you think that's supposed to benefit?
Right. Exactly. We know who these groups are. They're all community organizers operating for the Democrats.
Did I hear you suggest that there is more to come?
There are several more videos in several more states with several more navigator scandals.
So let me ask you: was it hard for this guy to find people who would suggest that you lie in your application?
Well, not in Dallas, Texas, for sure.
And John, has there been any, we saw this with the first round of O'Keefe, and every time O'Keefe has a video, we always get pushback from people like Media Matters and journalists who didn't do their job like O'Keefe is doing. I mean, why isn't, NBC News doing this undercover expose of government fraud? Are you getting pushback? Is O'Keefe getting pushback about selective editing or that this is,
Of course. Look, 60 Minutes used to do this. Dateline and NBC used to do this. The lawyers stepped in and said, you don't want to do this, too many liabilities here. So the field has been left to citizen journalists like James O'Keefe. He has released or will release, as he has in all previous of his scandal coverage, the unedited raw video that people can look at.
Right.
They can look over the transcript. I will simply say, if anything went wrong, it's at the navigator end, because last night the Urban League fired one navigator and suspended 3 others. If they did nothing wrong, why are they firing and suspending people?
There you go. So already some scalps mounted on the wall of John Fund's office there at National Review Online. The other thing we know and love about you, John Fund, is that you are an expert, I think, on election law in America, and I'm sure you're watching with a very close eye what's going on down here in the Commonwealth of Virginia with the Attorney General's race. What should Virginians be concerned about as this canvassing and the statewide certification moves forward?
Well, first of all, the good news. Well over 2 million Virginians voted last week. The state had a new voter ID law in place, and all of that evidence of voter suppression and trying to keep people from voting and voter ID was racist and people wouldn't be able to vote. How many complaints have you heard?
Hey, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
It's the dog that didn't bark in the nighttime. In other words, voter ID worked. We should celebrate this, but I don't hear anything from the left. And in fact, it worked in Texas, too, where the law was implemented. Look, recounts are very complicated. They're going to take a month. I find it a little jarring that one candidate has decided to declare victory even though the recount hasn't even begun yet. It's only like a 150-vote margin out of 2.2 million. The process must continue. I believe that this is why we hire election officials to do the job responsibly. I'll be monitoring it. Other reporters should be monitoring it. You know, we went through this in 2005 when Bob McDonnell beat Cray Deeds for Attorney General, and the margin was like 300 votes. It went smoothly, and people accepted the result.
All right, so we'll keep watching that. Listen, you know, I made an observation this morning as I was going through all the various websites, including National Review Online, and looking for different stories. And I look at a lot of places in the morning as I prep for this show. I could not find not one positive Obamacare story. This is really turning against the administration in a big way.
There is a positive Obamacare story out there, which is there's one part of the website that is working. It's called the Federal Data Hub, which is a conglomeration of all the personal data that people have in one place. The problem is the good news is also the bad news, because that's the Federal Data Hub that the navigators can access when people enroll, and therefore, since they don't have criminal background checks, it's going to be, look, the former Commissioner of Social Security says these navigators are going to turn into predators if they have any dishonest motives. Navigators become predators.
It's awful.
Because we've done nothing to check the backgrounds of these people. We know nothing about it.
And there's nothing to secure the site.
3 years ago, we had census workers go through fingerprinting and background checks. Census workers only go door to door knocking and asking how many people are in the house.
It just gets worse
for this,
and worse.
We had no background checks.
Yeah. Wow. All right, John Fund, National Review, thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to keep an eye on it. And we might draw on you as this recount happens in Virginia, because there is a concern that certain jurisdictions are looking at these ballots in a different way than the other jurisdictions are.
That's the major problem, and all of that can be found in my book, Who's Counting? How Fraudsters and Bureaucrats Put Your Vote at Risk.
He did it before I could. Thanks, John.